also live on YouTube. We have a busy hour ahead here of streaming today, and it starts with well, first I want to tell you some of the other things we have going on later in the show. The first day without a virtual queue at two very popular rides at Disney. We're going to check in with a couple of our theme park experts to see how things are going there. Governor Ron DeSantis unveiling and discussing a new timeline for an I-75 expansion and the possibility of Buc-ee's, a new Buc-ee's here in Florida. It is Doge Day, according to a Florida congressman getting ready to hold a news conference at 2:15 at the House Triangle. That is that live picture you see below. That is Aaron Bean, who lives in Nassau County, represents Jacksonville, getting ready to hold a news conference as the co-chair of the Congressional Doge caucus. Coming up in our Tampa connection, we are going to have an update as a second teenage suspect has been arrested, and so was his father after a Polk County homicide. But first, DeSantis versus Donalds. Some interesting words from Governor Ron DeSantis when asked about the endorsement from President Donald Trump of Congressman Byron Donalds in a potential governor's race. We're going to go ahead and bring in Kimberly Leonard, the Politico reporter and the author of Florida Playbook, a newsletter. And Kimberly, always good to have you here on Tuesdays here on Florida Live.
Thanks for having me.
So Kimberly, pretty interesting to hear the words from Governor DeSantis yesterday when he was asked about whether he would endorse Congressman Donalds in the governor's race.
Definitely. I mean, look, there's something you should know about the governor. When he does these press conferences, he knows that he's going to get questions about the news of the day. And the big news of the day was, of course, that President Trump had endorsed Byron Donalds. And so by doing the press conference and also taking questions, it was clear that Governor DeSantis wanted to have the question and that he was ready for it and that he wanted to go ahead and start messaging his perspective. I think it's pretty clear that he doesn't see Byron Donalds as the person to succeed him in the governor's mansion. But one person that he did talk up with was his wife, Florida First Lady Casey DeSantis. And he was basically saying that he sees her as the best person to carry the conservative legacy forward and also someone who could stand up to the various fights that have been had. So this is a bit of early messaging, should she get in the race, that we are kind of seeing Governor DeSantis test out.
And Kimberly, I know Politico had some reporting about kind of what's been going on in the background here when it comes to the governor and the first lady and kind of feeling out and speaking with potential donors for a campaign.
That's right. My colleague Gary Fineout here at Politico really was the one to get a lot of that information. The DeSantises were calling around to donors. They were saying, look, Casey DeSantis is thinking about running. Just please keep your powder dry. Let's see what happens. And to a lot of people who are close to the DeSantises, it's definitely seen as the sort of correct solution, I would say, to Governor DeSantis leaving office, because if you think about it, a lot of the causes and lobbyists and different businesses and so forth that have done well under Governor DeSantis would like to see that, continue essentially. And they see no reason why, the DeSantis legacy shouldn't go on to his wife. She is someone who delivers incredibly well, who, does really well in polling, but also when I say delivers incredibly well, she just is someone, whenever she gets kind of on the stump, everyone kind of says, whoa, when is she going to run? I mean, I heard it a lot when I was in Iowa. And so it seems like Governor DeSantis prefers her to be the one, but he may just be messaging it now to kind of see how it goes and then decide differently. Nothing is official yet. I just want to stress that.
What would it mean for Governor DeSantis to kind of push forward with this if that ends up being the case? We know that he was an ally of former president, of Donald Trump before, and then DeSantis kind of resisted that and challenged the president in the last presidential campaign. What would that mean to kind of push back against the president's endorsement when we know how much weight that carries here in Florida?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's risky. I don't think there's any way to kind of sugarcoat that. DeSantis did win by a big victory in 2022 in Florida, but so did Trump. He won by 13 points in the state, and Trump is really seen as the leader of the party, obviously. And Trump's endorsement in 2018 helped Governor DeSantis become governor. And so to go up against Trump again, especially in this moment where Governor DeSantis has really tried to sell Florida as, #1 for MAGA policies and trying to support President Trump at every turn, to then go around and say, well, support the policies, but not the people that you have in mind to govern Florida, that creates a very difficult, messaging atmosphere for Governor DeSantis. I don't know to what extent it breaks through with voters exactly, but I don't think that, the Trump entourage is going to be silent about it. I think that there's going to be another fight about it. I think they would savor that fight. And it'll be a repeat of what we saw probably in Iowa. And I'm not saying that it ends with any particular person winning. It's still very early for that. But the brutal battle would be very, very similar from what we saw then.
Now let's talk about this state Doge task force. It's been getting a lot of attention with the governor unveiling that yesterday, and kind of what that means, what impact that could have on the legislative agenda. We're now just a few days before the lawmakers are going to gavel in Tallahassee.
Yeah, well, the thing is that the state already has a constitutionally mandated task force that is supposed to look at waste in the system, that's already working on this. But look, Governor DeSantis is trying to show that he is replicating what the Trump administration is doing, that he wants to double down on what they're doing. And so what he has essentially done is launched a whole new sort of Doge for Florida to look at possible jobs in state government, in local government, especially in the university system, to sort of root out potential areas where they see themselves spending less. And also one thing that they're doing is that they're going to be using AI to help them determine that. So you really see DeSantis embracing this position of, how the state can support Trump. And I think it's probably previewing too how he plans to message himself in 2028 if he were to run for president again, to essentially say, look, yes, I lost the last time, but as governor of Florida, I looked for every opportunity that I could to support President Trump. And that's why I'm the natural sort of extension, even though JD Vance is probably the person who Trump will end up seeing in that light.
All right, Kimberly, we are just a couple of days away now from the state lawmakers and their regular session. But what do we need to be watching for in Florida politics over these next few days?
Yeah, I mean, I think the interaction between the governor and the legislature, even though we saw everyone kind of come together at the end of the illegal immigration fight, that there's going to be a lot of personality clashes. There's going to be clashes over policy as well. Governor DeSantis wants to see open carry of firearms, and Ben Alberton, who's the Senate president, does not support that because he says local law enforcement don't. And, there are other priorities, including on condos, that are going to be talked about. There's going to be discussion over a potential Trump library, presidential library in the state, over the Black History Museum. There's so much happening this forthcoming session. And there's going to be also priorities that they haven't even told us about yet that are going to be emerging.
All right, so a lot to watch, a lot to keep you and your colleagues busy, Kimberly.
Exactly.
All right. Well, Kimberly Leonard, Politico reporter and the author of the Florida Playbook newsletter that you can get in your inbox. I always appreciate you joining us. Good chatting with you today here on Florida Live.
Same. Thank you.
All right. We're going to take a break and we'll be right back. Welcome back into Florida Live on this Tuesday afternoon. What is your favorite Disney World theme park? That is our question of the day. We hope you vote here. Pull out your phone, scan this QR code, and you can vote. You'll click on the news tab once that comes up, and just click on which one is your favorite. We will bring this up throughout the show here. Your options, of course, Magic Kingdom, Epcot, Animal Kingdom, and Hollywood Studios. Those are the 4 Disney World theme parks, but maybe you don't like those as much. Maybe you're a Universal fan. Maybe you're a SeaWorld fan. You can also make your voice heard in this poll right now. So just scan this QR code while we've got it up here and vote, and we will check back in on this in a little bit. We are still keeping an eye on this situation. This is going to be the Congressional Doge caucus. You see the placard up behind the podium. This is at the House Triangle outside the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C. We are standing by for that news conference that we expect to start shortly. But it is time now for our Tampa connection, and for that we go to Fox 13 Tampa and the digital content producer Nancy Gay, who joins us live now from the newsroom. Nancy, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Garrett. Now today we actually have a follow-up to a story we talked about yesterday, in which one teenage suspect had been accused of shooting a suspected marijuana dealer in Frostproof on Sunday, had been arrested, but Polk County deputies were still searching for his 16-year-old accomplice. That 16-year-old did turn himself into authorities yesterday afternoon, and this morning Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd announced that the father of that suspect has also been arrested. Now, the 16-year-old suspect, Charles Jackson III, who, as I mentioned, did turn himself into authorities yesterday, it was his father, Charles Jackson Jr., who was arrested in connection with this murder of a 22-year-old Frostproof man. On Sunday, Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd said Jackson III ordered about $400 worth of marijuana on an app from the 22-year-old Frostproof man who has been identified as Juan German Garrow Jr. Judd said Jackson III gave Garrow Jr. directions to a Frostproof neighborhood, and when he arrived, Jackson III, along with 15-year-old Tyee Allen, spoke with him for about 2 to 3 minutes, and then Sheriff Judd said that Jackson III pulled an AK-47 out of Allen's backpack and shot Garrow Jr. 3 times. Now, Judd said Garrow Jr. did die from gunshot wounds, and that's when his foot slipped off the gas and his car rolled about a block before it went over the edge of a street where it stopped. Now, Sheriff Judd said that when they found Garrow Jr. deceased in his car, he was still clutching a baggie of marijuana. After the shooting, 911 was called, and Sheriff Judd said the 2 teens ran away. However, the sheriff noted that Allen's backpack was left in the middle of the street, so he ran back, grabbed his backpack, and then headed home. Now, Judd said this happened around 5 p.m. in Frostproof, so there were witnesses around, and also there were cameras that caught a lot of this on camera, cameras that caught a lot of this on video, I should say, and that helped lead investigators to 15-year-old Allen, who was arrested. Now, initially, Sheriff Judd said that Allen claimed that he didn't know anything about this murder, but later he admitted that he and Jackson III met with Garrow Jr. again to buy marijuana. He told deputies that Jackson III had spoke to Garrow Jr. at the front driver's side window for a few minutes, and then he pulled out a gun and shot him multiple times. On Monday, investigators went to the home of Jackson III and spoke with his father, who again I mentioned is Charles Jackson Jr. Deputies say that the father claimed not to know where his son was located, but Sheriff Judd said that's not true. Let's listen to what he had to say during a press conference this morning.
Well, while we're there talking with him, he starts texting and erasing texts. He has texted his son and told him, "Run, the cops are after you." He goes to jail again. He's been to jail before for tampering with evidence and accessory to first-degree murder. This guy's already been to prison twice for resisting, aggravated assault, burglaries, violation of probations. He's a bad dude. And his son is a murderer. Who would have thought? We were in Avon Park because we thought Charles Jackson III was down there with his father. Nope. He goes to school in Lake Wells. He showed up for school. Did you hear what I said? Monday morning, he showed up for school at Lake Wells High School like nothing had happened. And he just murdered a guy by shooting him 3 times.
Now, as I mentioned, Jackson III did turn himself in yesterday afternoon. That happened sometime around 3 o'clock. Now, he is charged with first-degree murder, attempted armed robbery, and Jackson III is charged with first-degree murder, attempted armed robbery, and tampering with evidence. Now, Polk County Sheriff Gary D. Judd said that he was arrested in 2022 for juvenile possession of a weapon. Allen is charged with first-degree murder, attempted armed robbery, tampering with evidence, and giving false information to a law enforcement officer. Judd said he was arrested in 2021 for criminal mischief to a vehicle. Now, Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd did say that the gun that was used in this case has not yet been recovered, and there is a $5,000 reward for information leading to that gun. Anyone with information about the location of that gun or anyone who has more information about this frost-proof murder, they are asked to contact the Polk County Sheriff's Office or Heartland Crime Stoppers. Garrett?
All right, Nancy, we appreciate that. A lot going on with that case, and we appreciate you giving us the details in today's Tampa Connection.
Thank you.
We want to go ahead and get you live to this news conference where Representative Congressman, I should say, Aaron Bean of Florida's 4th District, who is the co-chair of the Congressional Doge caucus, talking about some initiatives to cut waste and improve government efficiency. This is a live news conference on Capitol Hill.
The shining example of freedom in the world, all that is in danger because we are overspending and we are spending ourselves into oblivion. So when the American people said, make a change, let's join with Donald Trump, who said, by the way, I'm bringing Elon with me and we will make change to government. Well, guess what? Congress wasn't going to sit by and let them do all the work. Congress, because we know the president signs executive orders, but they're not permanent. And so a group of legislators decided, let's get together. Let's create a caucus, the Doge caucus. Let's make it both Republicans and Democrats that can come together, maybe not agree on everything, but agree that we're spending too much, that it's an unaffordable track that we're on. Let's make some changes to come together. So today, how about that? We got a little taste of Doge Day, where we've got a handful of our members that are going to be dropping bills, a Doge bill, either today or this week, and you're going to hear about it first. So I am grateful to come out. We got some heavy hitters standing behind me. And before I get to them, before I go to the great state of New York next, I want to tell you about 3 bean bills that have a Doge flavor to them that you need to know about. One is the Cuts Act. The Cuts Act is back. And what the Cuts Act stands for is cutting unobligated tumultuous spending. Is this from last year? Yes, it is, where we had over 92 co-sponsors, which we went out, our team went out and found, are you ready for this? COVID money that agencies and states are still hoarding. Are you kidding me? COVID is over. But these agencies still hoard this money. That money, and we think it's over $80 billion that's still out there. We want to take that money and either use it for current expenses or just to pay down the debt. Number 2, I'm proud to introduce and co-sponsor. People are excited about Doge. Happy Doge Day to you too, my friend. Let me tell you, I'm excited to sponsor, along with my good friend Joni Ernst, Drain the Swamp Act. Drain the Swamp Act says this: each agency needs to relocate 30% of the workforce outside of the district. Let's put them in the heartland. That's where people are in need of services, so let's relocate that. And then today, ladies and gentlemen, for the first time before the press, we've launched the Put Your Money Where Your Mouth Is Act. I'm excited to announce that I'm willing to put my money where my mouth is. The American people are making reductions right now at their dinner table. They're talking about, honey, what can we cut back on, what we can do, how are we going to afford Biden's eggs? We're going to make some reductions. The put your money where your mouth is says to every congressional office, let's reduce the amount that we're spending in your office by $100,000 over the course of a year. Let's just trim and tighten our belt a little bit. And that's the money that can be used to pay for expenses rather than put anything else on our credit card. That's what we don't want. We got a CR coming due in 2 to 3 weeks. And the last thing anybody wants to see, including the American taxpayer, we don't want to see just Congress punting and just putting it on our credit card. We want real reductions. And so with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go to we got some really big hitters up here from Congress that's going to talk about their Doge twist and their involvement with Doge. And so first, let's go to the great state of New York, where Representative Malliotakis is up next.
That was Congressman Aaron Bean, who lives in Nassau County, represents Jacksonville and part of that area, with holding a news conference at the House Triangle on Capitol Hill there, talking about some initiatives to cut waste and improve government efficiency. Obviously, the Department of Government Efficiency, Doge. The Congressman Bean is the co-chair of the Congressional Doge caucus, focused on cutting spending, streamlining government efforts, and those kinds of initiatives. So Congressman Bean outlining 3 of his bills that he's filing amid a flurry of bills focused on cutting spending that we expect, as he talked about the Cuts Act, the Drain the Swamp Act, and the Put Your Money Where Your Mouth Is Act. Still, he talked about some of the details of those, and that is something that we're keeping an eye on as well. As we go to break here on Florida Live, I'm going to go ahead and show you today's question of the day again. What's your favorite Disney World theme park? You can vote right now. Scan this QR code that you see on your screen. Is it Magic Kingdom? Is it Epcot? Is it Animal Kingdom or Hollywood Studios? Or maybe it's none of the above. Maybe it's Universal. Maybe it's SeaWorld. Vote on your favorite Disney World theme park right now. We will leave this up for a little bit here as we go to break so that you can scan this QR code and put in your votes, and then we will check back in on the results in a little bit. We'll be right back here on Florida Live. Welcome back into Florida Live. Just seeing these numbers change, continuing to change throughout the break here, and they just changed just seconds ago. It looks like Epcot is dropping a little bit. I just saw Magic Kingdom go up. I saw Universal go up as well. I'll be honest, my personal favorite is Epcot. So, but 34% saying Epcot right now. Still not too late for you to vote on your favorite Disney World theme park, or maybe you prefer Universal or SeaWorld. So cast your vote by scanning the QR code that you see right there on your screen, and we'll check back in on this again in a little bit. Governor Ron DeSantis was in Ocala today holding a news conference where he announced the groundbreaking of an I-75 expansion project into that area. It's a 30-mile stretch where there's going to be additional lanes between State Road 44, State Road 326. It's happening earlier than originally projected as well. Governor Ron DeSantis in this news conference earlier talked about the importance of I-75, particularly when it comes to hurricane evacuations, hurricane relief efforts in the aftermath of storms. One other additional note that came out of this news conference is that the governor said Buc-ee's has committed to add a location at one of these interchanges. So a lot of expansion when it comes to I-75 in that area, and Governor DeSantis talking about what that project will look like.
I think people that travel around Florida and have a good knowledge of everything know where some of the pressure points are. And I think that both tourists and residents alike have seen what you can have in the way of traffic on I-75 here in the Ocala area. You can have major backups, standstill traffic. And again, that's not necessarily just limited to rush hour. That can happen at any time of the day. This is one of the most used, if not the most used, tourist corridors. 15% of all visitors to Florida come down I-75 from Georgia. We also have major freight that's moved across I-75. And as we saw again this past year, I-75 is essential for hurricane evacuations. During Hurricane Milton, we implemented emergency shoulder use on I-75 so that people on the West Coast could evacuate quickly and safely. And we were able to safely evacuate millions of people out of harm's way. Now, on evacuations, we always stress you don't necessarily even have to get on an interstate. There's usually shelters within your county, but we know people want to get out of Dodge, and so that's what happened. And so they look at that. People always ask, every time we do this, we open the shoulder, and you do that once the traffic gets to a certain level, you open the shoulder, because there's a little bit of risk in that, so you don't do that willy-nilly, and want people to be safe, you do it. People will always say, are you going to do contraflow where you shut down going south so everyone can go north? No, it doesn't work. This has been studied. They've done it. There's safety issues to it, of course, but it just doesn't work. And you also need to flow both ways, because as you may, as a resident, want to evacuate, we are bringing in first responders to go into the eye of the storm to be able to respond. Our utility workers, all these things. With moving Florida forward, we are able to infuse $541 million to accelerate this I-75 project, where we are creating more lanes on I-75 between State Road 44 and State Road 326. That is going to make a difference for people. That is going to make it better for traveling in this direction. This was something that is being accelerated by between 10 and 15 years, depending on how the schedule would shake out. And I looked at that. I saw the traffic. I'm like, I've got money in the kitty. Like, we can't wait 15 years. We got to get going now. So I'm happy that we'll be able to do. These auxiliary lanes will cover over 31 miles. And again, that's from Wildwood, State Road 44, to State Road 326 in Ocala. And again, that's 10 and 15 years ahead of schedule. And because we advanced this Moving Florida Forward project, Florida Department of Transportation was able to begin work on the new 49th Street interchange, which is going to have a major economic impact.
You did hear the governor say that this project is 10 to 15 years ahead of schedule. This is something that the Moving Florida Forward initiative that the governor touched on in that clip there. That's a main focus of that. It takes money from the state's budget surpluses and uses that to speed up transportation projects across the state. Governor DeSantis also went in a little more in depth about speeding up projects like these that will have a high impact on drivers all across the state.
We have at least 20 major interstate and roadway projects across the state that have been expedited through this initiative, including expansion of lanes and the addition of express lanes along I-4 in Polk and Osceola counties. I mean, I think people have been on I-4. The ultimate was great, that helped, but once you get past where that was done and the lanes are less, it's not even a rush hour thing. You could be there at any time of the day and there could be a backup. So this is going to have a major, major impact in Osceola and Polk counties, especially as people go to and from different parts of Central Florida. We also are funding and moving up the addition of regular express lanes on I-275 in Pinellas County. Those improvements are anticipated to reduce travel delays by almost 85%. Then it also adds capacity in case of hurricane evacuations, and unfortunately, we had to do that this past hurricane season with both Helene and Milton leading to evacuation orders in the Tampa Bay area. We also are doing a redesign of Golden Glades interchange on I-95 in Miami-Dade. Helps the major corridors get in there. It's a very difficult part of the state to make traffic improvements because it's all built out, so we don't have as many options, but this will make a big, big difference. We're also doing the Fruitville interchange on I-75 in Sarasota, changing it to a diverging diamond design. You know, I see these plans and I look at that and I'm like, I asked Jared, like, how do you know? Oh, we've tested it. It's so much better if you do it. So they do test all these things. And when we're doing designs, it's proven to increase the traffic flow. So you're going to have that. They say that's going to increase volume capacity by 40,000 vehicles just in that one exchange. And so that's really, really big. We're also realigning US 301 from County Road 470 to Florida's Turnpike in Sumter County. That as an anticipated reduction in delays during peak hours of almost 94%. So these are things that are really significant. When you're doing groundbreaking now instead of in 15 years, that obviously is a big win for people. And some of these places like Champions Gate off of I-4, you can have really big bottlenecks. To say we'll get around to it in like 2034 when it's already intolerable now, and we had the means to do something about it, wasn't acceptable. So we decided to do it, and we're really looking forward to do it. So our total investment in infrastructure over the next 5 years is going to be almost $70 billion. And again, that's reducing congestion, improving safety, and addressing the future needs.
Hey, and want to show you some new video into our newsroom here. This is from courtesy of Stream Time Live, a near miss at Chicago Midway Airport. You see this Southwest jet coming in for a landing, makes or is just about to, or makes an initial kind of touchdown on the runway there, and then has to pull back up because there is another plane, a private jet there, that is taxiing across that active runway. So a near miss this afternoon at Chicago Midway Airport, and just a crazy video showing just how close of a call that really was. We're going to take a break here on Florida Live, but we'll be right back after this. Welcome back into Florida Live. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us today. We talked about Congressman Byron Donalds, who represents Southwest Florida, and have been in the news a lot lately, not just as a congressman, obviously with the potential of him running for governor, getting essentially an endorsement from President Trump to do so. The congressman was on with Fox Business's Maria Bartiromo, and she asked about the endorsement from President Trump and whether he's officially in the race, what's next, and also asked what he could do as governor. And he said a big focus is the housing market. This is a clip of that conversation on Fox Business.
Well, we're working right now to figure out when we're going to make a formal announcement. Haven't gotten there yet, Maria, but I do want to thank the president for his support and his endorsement. I said at CPAC the other day, I wouldn't let him down. And if I choose to get into this race, I will not let the people of Florida down. But we have a lot of work to do. And in the meantime, before we even get to the gubernatorial race, we still have to get the president's agenda done on Capitol Hill. And I talked with Speaker Johnson the other day. He has my full attention to make sure we get that done.
Before you go, Congressman, let me take you back to your home state and what you can identify in Florida that you think you could really make a difference in as governor.
Well, the number one issue in our state is insurance, Maria. Insurance and, of course, housing affordability. You know, the great thing about our state is that we've had great leadership over the years. Governor DeSantis has been tremendous. Governor Scott before him was tremendous. People choose Florida year after year after year. And so as kind of a byproduct, our housing market becomes more expensive. But insurance, we have to dig in and address that. And frankly, everybody around this situation is going to have to give a little. We're going to have to make sure that carriers are responding to the claims of our citizens promptly. And we got to do everything we can to try to maintain some stability when it comes to insurance premiums. It's a tough problem that we're going to have to get into. But if we can solve that one, it will be to the betterment of the people of Florida.
And Congressman Donalds also was asked about Elon Musk's role with Doge and his email request asking for 5 bullet points from federal workers. That's gotten a lot of attention and stirred up a little bit of controversy. That was another topic of conversation on Mornings with Maria.
The White House advisor Musk is asking a majority of federal workers to outline 5 weekly accomplishments and send them back in an email by midnight tonight. Musk said on X, the reason this matters is that a significant number of people who are supposed to be working for the government are doing so little work that they're not even checking their email at all. In some cases, we believe non-existent people or the identities of dead people are being used to collect paychecks. In other words, there's outright fraud. Some agencies, however, like the FBI, the Pentagon, and the intelligence agencies have told their employees to hold off on sending responses, Congressman. They're going to do it.
Look, what I think is that Elon Musk is correct in this. You have to get an accounting of what people are actually doing week in, week out. That's how it operates in the private sector. You have to have strict responsibility to your higher ups about what you're actually doing, how you're performing. The fact that you have federal employees and Democrats who are pushing back saying this is outrageous is ridiculous. It is the absolute right thing to do. There has to be accountability when it comes to federal workers. And to a broader point, for the Democrats who were upset that President Trump essentially has a special envoy examining the federal bureaucracy, that's a good thing because the executive branch has had special envoys all the time. Nobody on the Democrat side of the aisle was upset when John Kerry was the special envoy going to Europe and every other place in the country trying to put together climate deals. They weren't upset about that, but now they're upset that Elon Musk is the special envoy to the United States about examining the waste and inefficiency in the federal government. It is long past due that this has occurred. The reason why Democrats are squealing is because now the target are their pet projects and their pet agencies that operate, frankly, regardless of politics in America, regardless of congressional intent.
One last clip I want to play for you from that interview, and it's about the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. It's a government agency that is responsible for consumer protection in the financial sector. This week, Congressman Donalds announced that he plans to introduce a bill to get rid of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and that he discussed that bill and the agency also with Maria.
The CFPB has been an albatross of an agency. It's been unaccountable to Congress. It gets its funding directly from the Federal Reserve. Most people don't know that. It basically shows up with a letter asking the Federal Reserve for hundreds of millions of dollars just so it can operate. And it really is this leviathan of an agency that just goes from company to company without really any enforceability by law. They put out these letters, these memorandum to force corporate action when they don't even go through the Administrative Procedures Act and the Process Act. This is a thing created by Elizabeth Warren. They put it in Dodd-Frank during the Obama administration. It was passed on a party line vote. And before the CFPB, each federal agency dealt with consumer protections. The Democrats' idea was to put it into one agency that operates outside of Congress, really outside of even the purview of the executive branch. And so it's time for that agency to be shut down completely, brought to a close. So my bill would end the CFPB.
So how?
I want to go ahead and get you back to this Doge caucus news conference for a couple of minutes here. That was Congressman Bean who was speaking just a moment ago. But let's go ahead and listen back in as this news conference about cutting spending on Capitol Hill continues.
Tony urged, who is the Senate side leader, of making sure that we correspond not just on a bipartisan basis, but also on a basis between the House and the Senate, that we talk about the ideas, float them together, and then come up with answers. Today, I announced that I'm introducing the Red Tape Act, and essentially what the Red Tape Act does is to make sure that as rules are written within the administration, too many times there are non-monetary issues which show up in the costs of the bill, and they are there for reasons of bringing in political or perhaps social reasons of costs rather than economic costs. The economic costs are the ones that we would measure is the true cost of the bill, not those outside factors that would be brought in that too many times government talks about in order to process what they would like. This Doge caucus has the opportunity not only to encourage each member to be a part of what we're doing, but I think that what we've done is challenged also the American people to see that moving forward, government efficiency is that driving part that will give them not only confidence back in their government, but will also help an effort to make sure we have government workers back at work. So, very proud to say that after a month and 2 days of having President Trump on the job, that we feel invigorated not only to take on government inefficiencies, but we feel like that the partnership that we are forming with Office Management and Budget through their Doge operation is giving us insight and opportunity to continue that track. Chairman, I want to thank you very much for this opportunity. Look forward to a continued discussion, not only with the American people and our colleagues, but perhaps more importantly, the entertaining questions that those of you in the press may have.
10-4, stick around, Pete. I have a suspicion there may be a question or two out there. Before we get to your questions, I have to acknowledge the panel, the all-star panel that we put together, panelists and members of the caucus. I put very high expectations on you today to come to this press conference. We had so many people that wanted to speak, and so for you to come at this press conference, y'all exceeded expectations. So thank you so much for being a part out of it. Now, I know that y'all want to talk about what Elon's doing. I know that's when we talk about. We're focused on what Congress is doing and how we're making things permanent. We have dozens of other bills that are going to be dropping. We're hoping to have more Doge days in addition to today. So with that, Javier, what's your thought or question, my friend? Thanks for coming out.
Outside of Representative Jared Moskowitz, why are House Democrats so against Doge caucus and Doge as a whole?
Well, in that, Beth Van Don's answer is you have to ask them. I think it's new. I think it's new. There's such a distrust of each other's parties that it is new. I have talked to, I know Chairman Sessions has too, dozens of Democrats that are on the fence. We've been working on creating a safe harbor where we can come together and debate. How about that? Is that wild that we could debate what's good? If I'm wrong, I want somebody to convince me in debate that I'm wrong. So that safe harbor, that we're not out to embarrass them. And I know that we would never agree on everything, but there are some low-hanging apples that we could agree that need to be picked or restructured to make government stronger, more efficient, and sustainable, because that we are not sustainable. Yes, ma'am.
Talk about this Doge.
I wanted just to make a quick point here before we go to break here. I showed the live look inside this hearing as we were listening into that Doge Day news conference. So this is a House Judiciary Committee subcommittee hearing on the topic of birthright citizenship and the 14th Amendment. Something to watch. We've heard conversations about birthright citizenship and kind of what could happen with that. So something else that we are monitoring today. I'm getting ready to go to break here on Florida Live, but before we do, going to bring up our question of the day. What is your favorite Disney World theme park? It looks like Epcot and Universal are tied right now. Let's go ahead and leave this up for a minute. Let folks scan this QR code and cast your votes on what your favorite Disney World theme park is. And we have a Disney theme park and a non-Disney World theme park tied for the lead right now with 29%. So cast those votes and keep it right here on Florida Live. We will be right back in just a minute. It looks like the Epcot fans have risen up, and it is continuing to climb up to 43% right now, ahead of as this vote continues this afternoon. Now, today is actually the first day without virtual queue at two popular rides, including one at Epcot. This is a live look at Epcot this afternoon. So the first day without virtual queue for two popular Disney rides, one of them Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind at Epcot. Now, we spoke earlier with Theron White, the lead publisher of EYNTK.info, and Drew the Disney Dude, Drew Smith, to see what they were seeing at Epcot today when it came to wait times.
Well, we have got a lot of construction behind us here at Test Track, and the line for Cosmic Rewind is really not that bad.
Yeah, the interesting thing with Cosmic Rewind going to standby state is that they actually added the attraction to early entry for guests staying at a Disney Resort Collection hotel or a Good Neighbor hotel. So, well, the park opened today officially at 9. There was already people in line for Cosmic Rewind beforehand, but even with that, one of your friends just texted you she got on the ride within an hour.
Yes. So we were able to get in the line at 9 a.m. So just, if you rope drop the park, but even doing that, she was on the actual ride sitting down in less than an hour, like right at 59 minutes.
I would imagine that has to be better than you expected.
Hey, honestly,
Absolutely,
it's much
yeah.
better.
Yeah, I think that whenever Disney does something like this, it's always a matter of, are they going to be prepared? And we saw dozens and dozens of cast members out this morning in the park, making guests go to a certain area. Sometimes people will walk through Connections Cafe and either to get the Cosmic Rewind, they had that blocked off to make sure everyone was going through exactly how they wanted to, and there was no stress whatsoever. We walked right up. We could have gone on the ride if we wanted to, like you said, in about an hour. So Disney was well prepared for than I expected originally.
Absolutely.
What do you expect as the day wears on? It to get better? It to get worse?
I think it'll actually get better. So usually Cosmic Rewind, if you do have the virtual queue, you can usually get on later in the day after like 1 or 2 o'clock, and you almost walk onto the ride, like 15 to 20 minutes. So I think we have the biggest rush here in the morning. It's the same thing if you look at Flight of Passage, if you look at Tron Light Cycle Run, all of those rides usually get someone that rushes them right at the beginning, and then it starts to self-regulate. Seeing this, I mean, Cosmic Rewind is already really, really good at being efficient. The ride moves nonstop. It rarely goes down. So this is a great sign to see on day one. If they can hold it about an hour or maybe even a little over, I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, I 100% agree. This attraction is so popular that I have been seeing a ton of concerns people saying, oh, the wait time is like 30 hours.
Yeah.
Realistically, whenever Disney switches an attraction from virtual to standby, if they see a long line, people might not get in line. Yeah. So it's never going to necessarily reach that point of 30 hours because people are just going to go decide to do something else. So seeing it, like Darren said, right now at around an hour, a little over an hour, when day one, when the park just opened, is a phenomenal sign. Like I said, it's self-regulating. Hopefully it gets even better as it goes forward and becomes the new normal here at FL.
Now, Tiana's Bayou Adventure does not have early entry, correct, at Magic Kingdom?
Yeah. That is correct. That actually means that if you're not staying in a Disney hotel, you have a regular ticket, you're a pass holder, you actually have a better chance to get to the front of that line. Now, as we have already seen here with Cosmic Rewind, the early entry didn't really mess up today, but that is nice to know that if that is the number one ride you want to do, you can go there right at the beginning and everyone has the same chance to be able to get on that ride. It's a good one. You definitely don't miss it.
And there is still Lightning Lane offered for these rides if you are looking for a way to get to the front of that line.
Yeah, so Tiana's Bayou Adventure is a part of Lightning Lane multi-pass. That's not changing. You buy that up to 7 days in advance if you are a Disney Resort Hotel guest, and then 3 days before for anyone else. So you can still get Tiana's with multi-pass. Nothing's changing there. Over at Cosmic Rewind, that's on Lightning Lane multi-pass. So that's the a la carte option. It's that single price per person once on top of standby. So before, you'd either have to get the virtual queue and buy single pass, and that was the max, 2 per day. And then if you got the same song or a song you didn't want, sometimes people were disappointed. But now you don't necessarily have to buy that multi-pass or buy that single pass if you want to, because you can stop in line if the wait time is super long and you're willing to wait for it.
Now, y'all are in front of a test track right now. I see the crews are working behind you, a lot of stuff going on there. So where do things stand with that right now?
So the estimate is it's going to be opening sometime in late summer. As you can see, there is a ton of work. We counted earlier. It was, 15 separate people?
Yeah, there's so many people out here right now, and that's what I find ironic is that in recent years, people say Disney never does work quickly, but Test Track closed last June. It's opening exactly about a year later. And we're out here this morning, and there's well over a dozen people literally installing new parts of this new entrance structure as we're here. So that narrative, it's just not true anymore.
Yeah, we've definitely seen a lot of work, not just here, but if you go over to Frontierland, you can see a lot of stuff happening with Big Thunder Mountain and that change. They're really working quick, and I'm excited because Test Track for years was actually my absolute favorite Disney ride, favorite theme park ride of all time. I'm excited to see we're going to kind of look back a little bit towards the world of motion, back to the 1980s, and kind of get some of that old school Disney style that I never actually got to see because I never did the original version of this attraction here at Epcot.
So what's the timeline now for Test Track?
Yeah, so late summer official opening, and also the fact that something I just noticed today is Disney last year officially said that we're going to expect to see ride testing again early in the year. And as we're approaching March right now, I think we're getting closer and closer to that. But all Disney said officially is in the air. And as we walked up today, they've actually installed all the tiles on the bottom of the outdoor section of this track. So a little bit of speculation here on my end. I think that now that these tiles are up and they're moving forward very quickly on this new entrance structure, that they are making it able so that these vehicles can whiz by at 65 miles per hour safely, and then the rest of the construction can continue to allow ride testing to begin and get everything worked out before that official opening.
Well, after a bit of a gloomy start to the day, it did end up being a nice day to go to the theme parks. This is, again, a live look at Epcot, and that view looking a lot better than when we took that live camera in our 11 o'clock show this afternoon. I have been keeping an eye on the wait times today. This is in the My Disney Experience app right now. Not sure if you can tell or not, if I might be able to get that to focus, but it is a 60-minute wait right now for Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. So really not too bad. That's kind of been what it's been hovering around. It was at 75 a few minutes ago when I first pulled up the app, but that's what it is right now. Just an hour wait, the first day without virtual queue. Going to pull up our poll question one more time today. What's your favorite Disney World theme park? And it looks like Epcot takes the cake. 49%, nearly half of you saying Epcot. Universal coming in at 27%, then Magic Kingdom and Hollywood Studios with 8%. Animal Kingdom and SeaWorld at 4%. Thanks for joining us here on Florida Live. We'll be back here at tomorrow at 2.
Florida Live starts now.
Good afternoon to you and welcome into Florida Live. I'm Garrett Weimer and thanks for joining us on this Tuesday afternoon live on Fox Local, fox13news.com, fox35orlando.com, and also live on YouTube. We have a busy hour ahead here of streaming today, and it starts with well, first I want to tell you some of the other things we have going on later in the show. The first day without a virtual queue at two very popular